Welcome back to Sustainable Today, Successful Tomorrow, where we explore real world sustainable tourism stories that actually work. In today's episode, we're looking ahead to 2026. How is travel evolving? What are travelers looking for? And how can the travel industry meet these needs? We've done our research, and today we're discussing 5 main trends we see for 2026 and that are relevant for sustainable travel businesses and destinations. I hope you enjoy the episode.
Long time no see.
A long time no see.
This is actually our first time recording remotely because I had to head back to the Netherlands for a family matter. So we are 7 hours apart. You are in Bali and I am back in the Netherlands in my hometown. I'm not entirely sure when I'll be back, so we might end up doing another episode like this. But I'm excited to see how this goes. And I'd suggest we dive right in.
Sure, let's do it.
How can the travel industry design and sell travel that genuinely feels good for people, places, and planet? In short, what do you think we'll be seeing more of in 2026?
Well, I think that in 2026, travel is going to be more mindful, personal, and connected. And based on the research that we've done, really seeing shifts in the way how people book a trip and with who, the pace in which they travel and where they travel, and also overall, like what kind of experience are they looking for. But it all comes back to being more mindful, being more personal, and being more connected.
Great, very interesting, and we'll dive into each trend later on. But first, I've actually had a look at our predictions for 2025, and we've predicted quite a few things, among others, experiential travel, destination dupes, contributing travel experiences, off-season travel, wellness travel. And which of these trends do you think really took off?
Yeah, we always did like 10 trends per year, which is actually quite a lot.
Yeah,
But
we're only doing 5 today, so
yeah, no, I
tuning it
think
down a bit.
we're tuning it down a bit. No, but I think they kind of all happened as predicted. But the one I really feel took off was the contributing experiences. And it's actually one of my favorites. So, and these are kind of the experiences that allow travelers to will positively impact the destination while on the trip and while having a great experience. We already said it's kind of a Gen Z thing, but a lot more travelers went with it. And it's basically mini volunteer tourism. So it's snorkeling, kayaking while collecting trash, for example. And also here in Bali, that's very high on my to-do list, is helping to plant coral to restore the reefs while diving, which is really cool as an experience. But at the same time, you can really contribute to ocean marine life. So it's the combination of doing something really fun, but doing good at the same time.
So what you're saying is that it's sort of a easygoing version of volunteer tourism, which, let's be honest, doesn't have the best reputation and has had quite a bit of criticism over the years. Do you feel that this new version is genuinely about helping out, or is it more about feeling good?
I think the issue with the volunteer tourism being controversial was all about volunteer experience related to children. So people going to Africa to teach English for 3 months without knowledge to actually teach. And then because they were leaving every 3 months, the children really developed like really the fear that everyone they meet is going to leave again. So they get a fear of rejection. They really feel they struggle to connect more with people. So in that way of volunteer tourism, they're actually doing harm to the children, even if they have the good intentions. I think this type of contributing experiences is really about an experience where you can help out temporarily. Has nothing to do with children. It's picking up trash. It is planting corals. It's not something that can actually harm a human being.
Kind of like easier things to do, and also maybe just like for a day or part of a
Yeah,
day or
just one of the activities that you can do while being on a trip, while doing good. But you don't have to commit to volunteering for an entire week or something like that. It's really just really a combination of an activity with
yeah.
doing good. So yeah, I really love it.
Yeah, so small commitment, but doing good.
Yeah, exactly. It's very easy to do.
How well are you actually communicating sustainability? We see many travel businesses and destinations working hard, yet they still struggle to talk about it.
And maybe you feel the same. You're afraid of being seen as greenwashing, unsure what to share, or just not really connecting with your travelers. We've been there with a lot of travel brands, and we get how frustrating it is. So, with years of experience in sustainable tourism and marketing, we've created something simple to get you started.
It's called a sustainable marketing scan. You just answer a few quick questions, we'll take a look, and if it's a good fit, we'll invite you for a short call to go through your opportunities.
You can start today at goodtourisminstitute.com/scan and turn uncertainty into a clear, compelling story.
Well, for me, actually, experiential travel really stood out. And I think that almost everyone that we spoke to on the podcast actually touched on that in some way. It's about those really immersive experiences that help you connect with a place or people on a deeper level. And we heard that from Jakarta Travel, Karatunga, Pura Aventura. So, a lot of great developments there, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's also that even though that we're moving to 2026, doesn't mean that all the trends that we listed in 2025 are no longer happening. I think it's really just a movement. And we also kind of see some trends merging into other trends in 2026. So, yeah, I think we're going to see a lot more on the experiential travel, the contributing travel experiences. Yes, it's one big, great movement.
Okay, great. Let's move on to the trends for 2026. Do you want
Let's
to introduce the first one?
So, trend one is tailored travel advice from a specialist or small agency. And so, Gen Z and millennials are rediscovering travel agencies to plan their holidays. And very interesting is that apparently this is because young travelers have FOMO, so fear of missing out, and they're stressing about making the right choices as they feel overwhelmed due to social media. So, Instagram and TikTok show endless dream holidays. So if you're in a certain algorithm, your whole feed is just a dream destination, a dream holiday. And to get one yourself, you need really expert and personal advice. And you get it from a specialist or a small agency.
Good old FOMO for the Gen Zers. That's interesting because you think it would be easier to design your own dream holiday with everything that's out there, with the social media, travel blogs, all sorts of AI tools that you can use.
Yeah, I think it's the pressure of having a perfect experience and then not knowing where to start because there is so much out there. And just having an amazing destination, pinned on, TikTok is not automatically gonna get you an amazing holiday if you just go there. It's always a combination or how do you get there? Where do you stay? So I think there's so much pressure on having this amazing experience that they're kind of lost in where to start.
Okay, I feel I'm getting old for saying this, but pressure to go on holiday. I mean, that's kind of beside the point.
No, I kinda get it, as in if you want to go to a certain destination and you see amazing pictures and videos online and you want to do that, you want to have that amazing experience. You want to see those viewpoints that they are seeing or they're showing you on the app. But then where do you start? I can imagine it's kind of overwhelming because there is so much travel content out there. Yeah, no, I get it.
I think you're a bit of a Gen Zer as well, so uh, I guess it fits.
I'm right in the middle.
Yeah, that's true. You're in
Mm,
between the Gen Zers and the millennials, but
yeah, but best of
let's say
both
you'll
worlds.
best of both worlds. So, what do you think is driving this trend? Because you can get advice, specialized advice from a larger tour operator as well, of course, but maybe the appeal of a small agency or a solo travel agent is that it feels more personal and a bit more exclusive. What do you think?
I think it's really about the value of small agencies and independent travel advisors who know destinations intimately, because travelers have different needs and they want them met. And travel is basically a personal experience and they're looking for that perfect fit. So, on the one hand, they want to go to whatever they've seen online, but they also want to make sure that it's what they want. And I think travelers want to be seen and understood, and it's also a Gen Z thing, is that it's really about, okay, how does this fit me? So my pace, my passions, my boundaries. And I think that with smaller companies, they would feel less like a number or just a client. And with smaller companies, they also have direct contact with the owner or the face of the company. So it really feels more personal.
Yeah, so it kind of comes down to personalization, the feeling of getting something that's designed specifically for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of people are after. I'm just not entirely sure that you'll automatically get that from a smaller agency or a freelance agent. I get the idea, but I mean, the bigger companies also have staff who are absolute specialists in specific destinations, don't they?
Yeah, obviously they do, but I do think that smaller companies personalize automatically because they are smaller, they have personal stories to share. They often have an about us story about the founder and a friend who started this company and why they did that. And then you're thinking like, okay, this is amazing. I want to travel with them. But with larger companies, I always feel it kind of stays more anonymous. So what I think what's a great opportunity for larger operators to do is to really focus on the personalization side and, for example, introduce all staff personally on the website, including sharing their favorite destinations, their hobbies, favorite food, and that when travelers are connected to an agent, they also are introduced to actually this person. So it's more personal and it's not just some sales agent from a company. You're really just connecting with another traveler who is just helping you get an amazing trip. And I think this is, well, a great opportunity to make it more personal. But I do think larger companies have to work a bit harder for that.
Yeah, we've talked about this before, and it's all about building that connection with your traveler. And using storytelling in the process really helps to build a connection. And you can actually build that connection up front by communicating on your website, on your social media in a personal way. That helps. I just think that, like you said, it's harder for larger companies to do that, but I think they can if they communicate well.
Yeah, no, they absolutely can. But I do think that because the majority might not make it as personal as the smaller companies are doing it or individual agents. And that's why many travelers are now turning to those small agents to, yeah, to get that actual personal, the trip that they're looking for. So yeah, I think this is definitely going to be a big development in next year.
Let's move on to trend number two.
Yes. Okay. Trend two is about traveling slower with intention. So, if time is the new luxury, slow travel is its natural expression. Slow travel is not new. We've discussed it before, and many travelers have already been doing it for years. What's new about slow travel is that it's being reframed, packaged, and sold by the travel industry. And this trend is all about the shift from personal travel to presence. So it goes from how many places did we visit this holiday to how did I really experience them. So it's all about staying in a place longer without hopping around and truly connecting to a destination. And I already referred to our podcast episode about slow travel. And for that, I did an interview with Paul from Byway. And I really loved what he had to say about this. So, yeah, let's listen to that quickly.
Yeah, let's do that.
People being in love with trains, people being in love with traveling slowly, people may be falling out of love with the experience of flying rather than the sustainability impact of flying. You mentioned that there's a kind of renaissance of train travel, and I think that's really true. I think there's a real market of people who are really interested in the connectedness that you get when you travel by train. When you travel through a
Yeah.
place, you experience that place. When you fly over a place, I think you miss quite a lot. And you could be flying anywhere, right? The clouds that you fly over that look the same wherever you're flying to. Whereas when you're traveling through a place, I think there's a real connectedness that people get by traveling that way.
Yeah, this is one that we've heard again and again across both seasons of the podcast, actually. And I think Paul puts it perfectly here. When you slow down, you feel more connected to a place. And of course, he's talking about train travel here, but slow travel comes in many forms. You can travel by train, by foot, on bike. And we actually recently talked to a tour operator who said that the e-bike is really taking off, which is a really good thing. It makes slow travel much more accessible for a large group of people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So now a biking trip is not only for those in Lycra or the very sporty traveler. It's basically anyone traveling that can enjoy a
Yeah.
destination by bike. For example, last week I did a mountain bike trip here on Bali with my mom if she's visiting, and she's not really fit. Sorry, mom. But with an e-bike, we had a lot of fun. It was a really fun, relaxing morning activity, and you're seeing the same things, but without the effort of biking up very steep mountains here. It's what you said, it's making it very accessible, and you're seeing a destination in such a different way than if you're in a car or if you're walking. It's just, I think the pace is exactly right.
Yeah, you can actually cover quite a big distance on an e-bike easily.
Yeah, yeah, no, exactly. And I think also connected to this trend is what you said about train travel is that we see more and more travelers taking the train to travel around and that they're making it part of the experience rather than as a transport mode. And
Yeah.
what I like about this trend is that the industry is now framing slow travel as soft adventure. And so it's accessible, what we said, yet really a really great experience. And I think the packaging and the marketing on this is just really well done.
Yeah, it is. But to be honest, when thinking of slow travel in a more traditional sense, I do still think of backpacking. But the target groups that you are describing, it sounds like they are after a bit more comfort and maybe even some luxury.
I think by association, yes, the slow travel is more backpacking type of traveler. But I think if you really look at what slow travel is and how we framed it also in our other episode, it can basically be any traveler because it's about what pace are you traveling with? How long are you staying in a certain destination? And if you want to stay in a hostel, fine. If you want to stay in a luxurious resort, also fine. And I also think with like these excursions like e-biking or anything that becomes more accessible, yeah, is really great for the industry and offers a lot more travelers a similar experience, which I think is really good to be that inclusive.
Yeah, of course, whatever you are selling and marketing well, people are buying. So you
Yeah,
can
exactly.
actually shift the trends yourself if you're doing it well, of course.
Yeah, and I think that's also kind of the same for our third trend, which is off the beaten track travel, but without going off grid. So, off the beaten track travel no longer means remote or inaccessible. And a lot of travel businesses are finding new ways to experience famous places. Because, well, let's be honest, some destinations are just worth visiting. But the trend is, or the development is that we're visiting them differently. So think about different routes, different seasons, and different perspectives. And basically, it's about, and I like kind of like this term, is discovery within reach. And then working on this trend, I remembered something Thomas from Pura Aventura said in my interview. So let's listen to that.
Okay, let's do it.
Patagonia is a good example of this because people have always heard or seen Torres del Paine. And the first thing we do is to say, okay, why? What about Patagonia? I want to see the people, the culture, the landscapes, the kind of experience, the sort of the variety of all of these things. And almost immediately, it's apparent that the Patagonia they're describing is not the Patagonia they would find in southern Patagonia. It is the Patagonia they would find off the beaten track. It doesn't take very much digging to realize that what the things you say you like, small hotels, kind of local restaurants, all this stuff, you're simply not going to find that in the busier places. You will still find that elsewhere. So you're sort of guiding them away. But almost always the entry point is through a known item, a known element, a place.
Yeah, what's interesting here is that he's taking a well-known destination as the starting point and then offering something alternative that actually fits the traveler's expectation far better. So in a way, I do feel that still counts as off the beaten track. But if you are visiting main highlights, but just in a different way, would you still call that off the beaten track? Because I'm thinking back to when we stayed in a small village in Tuscany a few years back. We drove down from the Netherlands for one of my best friend's wedding, and we stayed in the area for a bit. So in those couple of weeks, we visited plenty of tourist highlights like Siena, Volterra, Florence. I mean, all the usual suspects in Tuscany. Would you still call that off the beaten track?
Kind of, yes. And this is exactly what this trend is. So you stay somewhere quiet because we stayed in the Tuscan countryside and we just went for walks there and we went to dinner in very sleepy small towns. And you see places that don't really see too many tourists or travelers. And then sometimes you go into the touristy highlights because you just like to see them. Because, for example, Florence is one of your favorite cities. We really wanted to go there for a day, but we didn't spend an entire week in Florence. We just went in for the day. And I think overall, travelers still want to see the highlights, but with fewer crowds and with a slightly different experience. And I think also the alternative timing is important. So go early morning, go off season, different entry points, and to really get back that sense of discovery while remaining comfortable because you're on the beaten track. And I think, yeah, actually, your example of Italy is exactly what the strength is.
Yeah, one thing I actually really liked about that few weeks was that we usually went into town in the afternoon. Usually these towns are on a hill and you would drive up in the car and you could see all the buses coming down, all the cars coming down, and we were one of
Yeah,
the only ones going up.
yeah,
And we would just stroll around for an hour or two and then have dinner
after,
in town
yeah,
when it's still quiet, because actually in these Tuscan towns, tourists usually come for lunch. And yeah, we would go for dinner. So it would usually be pretty quiet, which
yeah.
I really liked.
No,
And
exactly. But this is the alternative timing. So going in the afternoon when the mainstream traveler already left and just having a different perspective on the town because we would have a glass of wine with sunset without the crowds, which yeah, is definitely for me a better experience of these towns because when we one time we went in for lunch and we did not like that at
yeah,
all.
nope.
So
But I mean, that's also the type of travelers that we are. We wouldn't spend a full day in a small touristy town because I just don't know what to do there, actually.
yeah,
Because
eat.
if you've seen two or three, you've seen them all, to be honest.
Yeah, we're more nature people. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the next trend.
Yes, that's trend four. And trend four is all about genuine and connected interaction with locals. So in 2026, travel isn't only about discovery, it's really about connecting because travelers are looking for more than sightseeing. They really crave exchange. And we're seeing a lot more interest in experiences that will combine adventure and local connection. So think about multi-day hikes, retreats, digital detox trips for those that want to leave their phone at home. And travelers are looking for experiences that, one, support local economies directly, and they're also looking for smaller and more intimate experiences. And I think this was also a trend last year, but they are looking for authenticity and an actual authenticity and becoming part of local stories and not just being outsiders, and to really participate in culture, basically. And what it takes to offer authentic experiences is something Theo from Karatunga explained really well in my interview with him. So let's play that because, yeah, I think that really fits what we're talking about here.
Okay, let's have a listen.
That's also what makes the tourism so beautiful, especially when guides are so much involved. And that also gives, I think, all the guests we have like a really authentic experience because they are together with a person that are proud of where they're from They still want to connect with the future, and they're really happy to be a bridge between their local community and themselves. We really are all about participating. We're all about experiencing the landscape and the community. And I think we just have a group coming back from the village actually now. And you saw them in the evening. They were at the cattle camp. They were milking the cows. They were singing in the evening. The community is really proud of their culture. And they really have told us also that because of tourism, we have gained more pride in who we are, where we're from. They were really marginalized within the country. But now, because people from America are traveling all the way to sit with them and listen to the stories and the songs around the campfire, they have now really regained their pride in who they are, where they're from. And that's why they're so excited always to meet travelers as well.
Yeah, I can definitely see the appeal to this trend. And to be honest, I'm a bit jealous that you got to join Theo on one of his tours in Uganda.
Well, that's the beauty of travel. We can go again.
Of course, we can go again, but I mean, it's not really around the corner, so maybe someday. But whenever we talk about community-based tourism, it's always the example you bring up, and for good reason, because I think they've really managed to create something that's a win-win for everyone involved, for the traveler, for the community, and for the tour operator as well. They're doing really well. And yeah, I'd love to experience it myself someday. One recent experience that I did have myself was that we visited the PKP Women's Center in Bali, and they provide a safe haven for women, children, and families who have experienced domestic violence. And part of the experience was that the founder shared her story, which is absolutely heartbreaking. At the same time, it's a very powerful way to use storytelling and to make that connection. And they kind of combined it with a workshop we did afterwards, offering making. And that's something I've wanted to do for quite a long time, actually, since we moved to Bali, because it's very much part of the culture. Well, newsflash, I suck.
Yeah, you were not good at that.
But I did really like the combination of having something more serious and something a bit more easygoing and fun. And yeah, that just made it a really great experience. It's storytelling, it's culture, it's community all in one.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I was wondering if you know any other kind of combinations like that are trending.
Good question. Well, I think it can basically be anything, but I do think there's a growth in creative workshops. So cooking classes, ritual workshops like the one you mentioned, doing something that's part of the culture while talking to the locals or learning more about their background. And yeah, it can basically be anything. And then at the same time, we're also seeing a blend of soft adventure with wellness and then also combined with local connection. So this personal connection is really key. For example, yoga or kayaking, forest walks, mountain biking, combined with knowledgeable local guides. So actually one of the other popular experiences of Karatunga in Uganda is they do a 3-day to mountain biking trip through the area, and then you stay in, I think you stay in camps, but it's everything is so local. So you have an amazing experience. This one is not creative, but it's self-adventure, but it's still combined with the local stories, and you have campfire at night, and you actually learn something about the people that live in the destination that you're visiting. And yeah, I think that's the entire goal of travel. Yeah, I think that's a really good trend.
You really are trying to convince me to go back to Uganda, right?
I love Uganda. So yes,
I
actually,
do
you hate
think
biking, so I'm not sure I'm going to get you on this trip.
I'm not going to bike. No, but we can do something different. I do feel that the wellness trend is also still going strong, and that's actually one that we predicted for 2025. So it's nice to see that that is still continuing.
Yeah, I think it has everything to do with everyone having very busy lives and kind of looking for that little escape and to just relax and do nothing. And what I actually saw about that is that what's also kind of a trend related to that is the example of going to a wellness retreat or a nature area like only 1 or 2 hours drive away and to just have a relaxing weekend. So just a change of scenery, having a good time, relaxing without long travel days, without having to plan a lot. So it's just really just a relaxing escape. I think that's definitely continuing.
Good. Shall we move on to the last one?
Yes, let's do it. Yeah, I think overall, all these trends. So while we have determined that human connection is at the heart of it all, there's also a powerful digital ally shaping how we travel smarter. And we're definitely can't get around that AI is becoming a lot bigger in travel. So trend 5 is smarter travel with AI. AI is transforming travel planning, but maybe not in the way that we might expect. Instead of replacing the human touch, AI is amplifying it. And it's really helping travelers, but also agents, to make more smarter, more aligned, and hopefully also more responsible decisions. So, smarter tools, better experiences, and there are AI powered apps that plan routes, optimize itineraries, and also provide real time local advice. So, yeah, we're all going to travel a lot smarter with AI.
Yeah, I've said it before and I'll say it again, but I do really see AI as a tool to help with tasks and challenges. I don't think that travel businesses need to worry about being replaced. If anything, that first trend is really showing the opposite. People are actually turning more towards personal advice from travel agents. So another question to ask here is, how can AI help us travel more responsibly rather than just more efficiently?
Well, I think there are a lot of opportunities for travel businesses, destinations to do that because there is so much data out there that can be, especially in combination with AI, can be used to predict visitor flows, manage transport, flag crowded destinations, show real life data on how busy it is, and especially like working with tools like Equator to calculate positive impact and carbon emissions is going to be so much more important because then if you have all that data, you can actually make better decisions, more responsible decisions based on the results. And also what Edmund from Equator was saying in my interview with him is he said like the travel industry is so behind on using data for good. And I think that's definitely an opportunity here to work with AI and to really focus on all the data you can have and to really make the tourism industry smarter and more responsible based on data decisions that are backed up by evidence, basically.
Yeah, definitely. And we've talked about this in depth, like you mentioned in our interview with Edmund and the episode about data before that. So if you are listening to this and you want to learn more about that, definitely have a listen to those episodes. And for me, it all comes down to how you use AI. And right now, I feel like the real value is in analyzing large data sets and turning that into better decisions. It's really about large data sets becoming more and more accessible, even to smaller businesses.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, but let's wrap things up and look at the full picture for 2026. So essentially, what we'll see more of in 2026 are travel experiences that feel way more personal and that might come through guidance from smaller travel agents or traveling more slowly and intentionally or exploring popular places in a different way. But it can also include connecting more deeply to a place or to people, and AI really fits into this shift as well because it's going to make it so much easier to design travel in a more personalized and more meaningful way. So that pretty much sums it up, right?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I think the whole conclusion is that it's going to be focused on personal, connected, mindful travel. Thank you for the summary. And I'm very excited to see where 2026 is going to take us. And hopefully next year we can evaluate and see which actually came true. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. The trends for 2026 are so interesting, and it looks like travel will be even more mindful, personal, and connected. Let us know your favorite trends and how you're going to implement this next year. In the meantime, if you're enjoying the podcast, like and share this episode, and subscribe to our channel to not miss any of the future episodes. Thank you for listening and hope to see you next time.